Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Wrestling with Things. We wrestle with all sorts of things in sports and entertainment. And now, here are your hosts, David and Sammy Joseph.
Sammy, I appreciate you. Thank you for being here. And we got a special guest that's joining us. He is a writer for Bleacher Report. He is the owner and creator of his podcast, Wrestle Rant, that you could listen to on Apple Podcasts. He is also the creator of his website, nexterawrestling.net. And I don't care what anybody says. I admire his work from afar. And I don't care if you're Dave Meltzer, Brian Alvarez. This guy's the most hardest worker in this wrestling space, man. I really feel that way. I'm not just saying that. I feel that way. Thanks, I see how you hustle. I see how you perfect your craft and the passion you put into it. Ladies and gentlemen, Graham Matthews is joining us. How are you, Graham?
David, first of all, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. We've been we've been friends for a long time. I've had you on my show several times. I don't know if I've been on your show before. Is that correct?
No, this is the first time. I'm excited.
Hey, making my debut like Brian Cage at Double or Nothing. That's cool. But that intro, I appreciate it. That intro is, I think I should just hop off the call now because I'm not sure if I could top that. But very much appreciate it. Makes me worth it because I had to stay up late last night till like 3 a.m. to finish something about Double or Nothing for today. So hearing you say that makes it all worth it. I appreciate it, man.
Perfect segue. See what I mean? He's hustling.
Exactly. Got the Double or Nothing shirt and everything.
Nice. But all right, before we get into all these fun wrestling topics, for those that maybe end up watching this that may not be too familiar with you, can you give us a brief summary about who you are, what you do, and what are you into?
Sure, absolutely. You pretty much hit all the notes right there, like you said. But I write for Bleacher Report, do work with Daily DDT, What Culture, and Sports Betting Dime. Just a massive wrestling fan. I think it would be an understatement just to say that. But just wrestling, doing the radio show, like you said, Wrestle Rant Radio, and been a fan now. This throws people off every time I tell them, and people are like, "Oh, you haven't been watching that long," which is absolutely true. But my passion for this pro wrestling thing is unrivaled, I would say. It's up there with some of the most dedicated pro wrestling fans out there, I would say. But and I've been watching since 2008, so it's only a dozen years. But to me, it feels like a millennium. It's my entire life. Absolutely love professional wrestling. But I do cover pretty much all of it. I watch all the major companies, with the exception of New Japan. I'm not that I'm not too into it. I just don't really follow it as closely as I probably should. That's definitely something I should hop on. But WWE, AEW, Ring of Honor, Impact. Ring of Honor, I think I said Ring of Honor, all the major companies, NWA, watch it all, review it all. There's very rarely a time where I can kind of sit back and watch a show and just enjoy it for what it is, because usually if I watch something, for example, I went back and watched WrestleMania 17 recently, of course, arguably one of the greatest WrestleManias of all time. Of course, in watching an old show, I have to go back and review it. I feel like I'm not doing myself justice if I don't review it in some capacity. So, but yeah, that's pretty much the general gist of what I do on a regular basis.
That's awesome, and I'm learning because I did not realize you started watching in 2008. I mean, it sounds like a short time, but not really. But I expected you to be like me. I feel like I've been watching since I was born, almost since I could have like recall memories. I feel like I was watching almost, but that's real interesting because you wouldn't know it. You seem like a lifelong fan, like literally, like since
Thanks, man.
But what I want to also get into is, you're all obviously into media and broadcasting and writing. Where can you tell us in the audience, where do you think that passion stemmed from? And when did you realize, this is something that I'm really into and I could see myself doing?
Man, that's a good question. I've loved writing for as long as I can remember, even well before I started watching wrestling. I never had any aspirations of, I don't think, becoming a writer. I think I was just kind of like, if you're good at something and more so that you enjoy what you do, I think you just kind of have a general like combination there, because there's a lot of people who are good at something but don't like it, or love something but aren't too good at it. I mean, there's some certain things you can work at, obviously. But I was fortunate enough to be, skilled at writing to a certain extent and also be very passionate about it. And then when I started watching wrestling, dozen years ago in 2008. It wasn't until 2010, and actually this call is super timely, as it was actually 10 years ago exactly from this Wednesday that I was accepted to write for Bleacher Report. So I've been doing it for a decade now. I was a freshman in high school, and from that point forward, I've just absolutely loved writing about professional wrestling. If you can find something that you're passionate about and pursue that, that's always my number one piece of advice to anyone. And then it wasn't until like a couple years later that I kind of combined, wrestling and writing, and wanted to make more out of it by doing, writing for more websites, doing a podcast, stuff like that. Like you said, media to me, it's not just writing, but like talking about it. I'm kind of new to the video thing. I do some video, but not a lot of it. But yeah, so I went to college for digital journalism a couple years after that, graduated with a degree in journalism, got my master's in it soon after. And I just finished up that about a little less than a year ago. So, and I've been writing about professional wrestling the entire way through. I cannot tell you, David, how many projects I have done on professional wrestling. And, I've done so many theses and final projects and, stuff like that on pro wrestling. Because again, if you do stuff on what you enjoy and what you know a lot about, it's not even work at that point. It's just, it's just another thing, which is why when I stay up until 4 a.m. sometimes writing about this stuff, it doesn't feel like work. I mean, I'm exhausted, but it's fun. So, so I just done a lot of writing, and I've just also done a lot of sports writing too, entertainment. I've got to interview a lot of cool people, but it's kind of the general journey of mine over the last, I would say, decade or so, dating back to when I first started with Bleacher Report 10 years ago from this coming Wednesday.
That's really cool, man. To hear you say everything you said, the journey just sounds beautiful, and I totally subscribe to the attitude that passion comes first, man. Yes, it's nice to make money. Yes, it's okay to get a good platform. Of course, sure. We all want to grow our platform, but if you don't love it, if you don't feel a little weird if you stop doing it, then it's not your passion, man. You gotta love it. You gotta love it above anything else. Sam, you want to jump in with a question here, man?
Yeah. I just gotta ask, because you said you started watching wrestling not too long ago. So
sure.
How do you feel about the landscape of wrestling when you were coming in, and then directly right now?
Yeah, that's a good question too. It's tough because again, I get so much that you started watching in 2008, you don't appreciate like the attitude. Or, like I don't live with regrets, but if I had any one regret, it's that to a certain, I am kind of happy I started watching when I did. I mean, everything happens for a reason. I'm a big believer in that mindset, but I am jealous of you guys and anyone else who grew up either during the Attitude Era or the Ruthless Aggression Era, which I absolutely love. When that documentary dropped on the Ruthless Aggression Era recently, I was so enamored by it because I love that period in WWE specifically. But, it's crazy because I wish I could have enjoyed those times and lived through them. I mean, I'm 25 years old. I was born in 95. So I don't know if I would have lived through the Attitude Era. I was only 5 years old, or, like 4 or 5 years old in 99, not 2000. So I wouldn't have even remembered it or appreciated it. But definitely through the Ruthless Aggression Era, I could have watched. But to me, everyone who watches, it's different. It's different for everyone. I do notice a lot of, negativity surrounding today's current product. I'm by no means saying it's perfect. I love the variety that we have now between, I was just thinking about that this morning, so it's a timely question. Coming off of Double or Nothing last night, because, it's so cool. I love AEW, but it's not like, go AEW, fuck WWE, like that. It's not that type of thing for me, because I love all the companies, NWA, even, when, WWE does something dumb, AEW does dumb stuff too. The Shawn Spears versus Goldust match, or I'm sorry, Dustin Rhodes match last night was absolutely terrible in my opinion. So it's not like everything's great, but it's such a different landscape. I'm not a big Attitude Era guy going back to watch that stuff, but there are certain periods, certain things about each era that I enjoy. Specifically, like even today, by no means today is it perfect, but like the emphasis on the in-ring action, promos, even today with the empty arenas and whatnot, there's a lot more emphasis on the video packages, the storytelling. I thought last night's Stadium Stampede match was an absolute blast, because it was so different than anything else we've ever seen. That's not typically stuff we've seen from WWE or from AEW or from any other company in recent years, because there's a lot of like action. It's all about the wrestling, which is great. But it's just different. It's definitely different today compared to when I first started watching. That was like literally the very beginning of the PG era, as people call it. That's what around the time they went PG. I think I started watching right before it was officially PG. But '08, in my opinion, very underrated year. We got Jericho, Shawn Michaels. They had Taker and Edge. A lot of good feuds in 2008. A lot of people forget about that. I mean, I wish I could have fast forwarded through '09 and 2010 and 2011, which had some pretty bad points there with a lot of just bad feuds and storylines, but there was some good stuff too. So I'm kind of thankful I grew up when I did, watching when I did, because a lot of people, our age, they grow up watching through the Ruthless Aggression era. They realize it's not real or whatever, and then they just stop watching. And I think my journey would have been totally different had I watched earlier or later or whatever point.
Yeah.
And also to kind of, I think everything you said was just well said about it just being different. You can't really say good or bad, but different. And it's tricky because, I have vivid memories of the Attitude Era only because, I watched it on tape so much and I had a lot of brothers, so I knew everything that was going on growing up. So, the Attitude Era is, if you're talking about storytelling and, characters, it is definitely the best wrestling era of all time. But what I dislike is that people get so hung up on it that they don't want to accept any other era. It's totally agree. The Attitude Era is great. It's a once in a lifetime. It's never going to be duplicated. It was at the right time. But don't let that hold you back from liking the stars that came in the Ruthless Aggression era, because you keep talking about it. That era was arguably just as stacked as the Attitude Era. You still had Jericho, Triple H, Taker, Edge. You had Batista, Cena, Orton coming up. And then you had those really high-level upper mid-carders like MVP, Mr. Kennedy, and Bobby Lashley and so forth. So it's like when you get hung up on the Attitude Era, it stops you from appreciating the other eras after it. And I just really, that's one of my pet peeves is you always hear them like, oh, it's not the same. Rock and Triple H aren't here. It's like those guys can't be here forever. Things all the time, every sport or entertainment. It's like, I get it. We were younger and, we admired it at the time, of course. We'll always admire it, but I really think that people could hold themselves back and get in their own way when it comes to just enjoying the product.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like you said, too, like those Stone Colds, The Rocks won't be around forever, but it's not like we have no stars today. There's a lot of people, like I'm not going to say again, it's completely great today because I am absolutely of the mindset, a lot like many other people, maybe you guys as well, they need to do a better job of building stars because they have all the talent. I think today's roster is stacked, like specifically with WWE. And they just don't do a good enough job of building up stars. Like, for example, it's not completely terrible. Like, they've done a good job so far with Drew McIntyre this year. Yeah. I think he's done amazing work as the WWE champion. I've really enjoyed what he's been doing. I'm trying to think of, a recent example. Like, a guy like Andrade should mean more than he is. Why is he losing every match as the United States champion? That makes no sense. Braun Strowman, he finally got the title reign, and that's cool. But, where was this Braun Strowman 3 years ago? Why didn't they give him a championship when he was at his at his peak of the popularity? So stuff like that, they could do absolutely a better job of creating stars. But I agree. I think not everyone, I hate to say all wrestling fans, love the Attitude Era. It's definitely romanticized, and for rightfully so. It's arguably the greatest era in all of professional wrestling history. If you get someone that was, older and grew up in the 80s, they might say the early 90s were great or the 80s were great. It's all, it's all different. So I love that's the beauty of the network. I love with WWE specifically. You can go back and rewatch all of this stuff and see how different it is from today or from 2008 or from 2002. And I love that you said that, David, about, that period in the late 2000s. I mean, of course, I'm biased because that's when I started watching, but you mentioned it. MVP, Kennedy, Bobby Lashley, CM Punk. The roster was stacked. I'm sure you guys have seen it, but there's a photo that's constantly shared. Umaga's another one.
Carlito. Come on.
Carlito, dude. Carlito with a freaking apple as a star, Yeah. But there was that picture that gets shared on Twitter all the time. I think it was at WrestleFeatures that may have shared it initially, and it just blew up. It's that picture from the Royal Rumble 2008. You know what I'm talking about? It's the whole roster from Raw and SmackDown. It's just it's like a horizontal picture. It's just incredible. It's like, holy shit, this roster was unbelievable, So that's why I go, what was that?
So many names. It was so many names.
Absolutely, so many names. So it's and the cool thing is, maybe not like as we're speaking now, but 10 years ago, people may be saying the same thing about today's roster.
Exactly.
Or like,
It's a cycle. It's crazy.
Exactly. We don't say it now. They weren't saying that in 08. I'm sure in 08 they were like, oh, we need Rock and Stone Cold back. I mean, I wasn't on the IWC, whatever. I wasn't on the internet at that point, so I have no idea. But like 10 years from now, they'll be like, oh my God, we had AJ Styles, we had Samoa Joe, we had McIntyre all at the same time. Like, this is crazy. Like, I'm a big believer, and this isn't to say that I praise everything that every company does, but like I think you got to find the positives in everything. You got to enjoy it for what it is. Not every show is going to be great. I enjoyed Money in the Bank. I really enjoyed Double or Nothing. Some shows are going to be just, we'll go on these podcasts, we'll do these video shows and just crap all over them, as we should, because they're bad. Some of these shows are pretty bad. But, you got to pick apart, like, okay, I enjoyed this about the show as a fan, or as, someone that's doing a podcast about it, or as a writer. You got to find the positives. Not everything is terrible. Not everything's great either. So just to kind of enjoy things for what they are as a fan, because that's what we are at the end of the day. We're watching it because we're fans, because I do it as a job now, but at the end of the day, I still love this stuff. Even if I wasn't covering every main event that airs on Thursdays on Hulu, I would still be watching it anyway, because I love WWE, I love AEW, and we love this stuff at the end of the day. So just got to be positive, I think, is the big takeaway, regardless of what era we're talking about here.
I love that. We got a couple of things that I really want to touch on. You can Double or Nothing. I really want to get to that.
Absolutely.
Keep that in the back of your mind.
Sure.
But I want to get into something real fast, because Sammy and I recently got into an intense disagreement about this. Okay. Bobby Lashley, our guy, has finally stepped up to the plate in a featured main event spot. Graham, I know I'm not expecting him to beat Drew McIntyre, but let me ask you, do you think this is going to be a one-off, or do you think Bobby Lashley could stretch this out and maybe at least be a threat to take the title?
So I'm assuming, David, that you think that he will be a threat to take the title at some point after the match. And then, Sammy, you probably believe that he won't be, that this is a one and done, right?
Yeah, it's a one and done, I think.
Okay, so my 2 cents are, I agree with both of you. I think it will be one and done, but I hope it's not a one and done, because I think he could go on to do more. I literally just wrote about this on Friday for Bleacher Report, because I'm so passionate about this Bobby Lashley thing. David, we've discussed this whole thing before.
We always talk about him.
Every podcast we've done, we've always mentioned Bobby Lashley. Literally a year and a half ago when we did my show, we mentioned stars that you want to see push that year. Literally a week later, he won the Intercontinental Championship. Now, granted, it wasn't a great reign by any means, but it was like, oh, cool, like that's his moment, This is just me, and I've been saying this 4 months. I know I'm not the only one. I love the alliance, the pairing of MVP and Bobby Lashley. It's money. I love it. Yeah. I think you actually said, David, on Twitter, recently, that you wanted to see them together, and I tweeted you back. I'm like, wait, is that a thing? And you were like, no, but I want them to, right? And I'm like, oh, man. I was like, oh, I really hope it is. And then it was, soon after. I love those guys together. If you saw them in TNA, you know how well they work together. MVP is 45 years old, so by no means should he be WWE champion in 2020. So I think as a manager, it works. Bobby's a guy that never really got a fair shot at the main event scene, in my opinion, at least in WWE. Impact treated him as a top star. And I think if they booked him the same way that Impact did, and people can crap on Impact all they want, they made Bobby Lashley a star. WWE can do the same thing. I think, again, I looked it up the other day. Bobby Lashley's 44 years old. He's 43 or something, so not much.
He looks great.
And he looks great. He looks awesome. You would never guess. I'm like, oh, my God, I thought he was 35. But, yeah, I think he's a guy that could be more than a one and done. I hope he's not a one and done, because there's a lot more other people on Raw for McIntyre to face. So I don't want to see Lashley win just yet. But I really want to see him continue to be booked well and hopefully maybe take the title before the end of 2020, whether it be from McIntyre or someone else. It's actually almost the exact 4-year anniversary, whenever Backlash is, of when Bobby beat Drew in TNA to win the TNA title. So it's almost perfect if he was to win. He won't win. I know that. I'm not getting my hopes up, but he's a guy they should continue to focus on. I like him a lot. Knowing WWE, the realist in me, I agree with Sammy. It probably will be one and done, and he'll be facing Humberto Carrillo on main event the next week after that. But the optimist in me wants it to be more than a one and done.
That's fair. Sammy, you got something to say to that?
Yeah. My situation with the whole thing is that, they just been feeding us so much crap with the whole Lana thing and everything, that I think he needs to go back to the trenches with MVP and just kind of give himself a little bit of a twist. so that he could be more important. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Just so it could take that whole thought out of everybody's mind of the whole Rusev Lana thing.
I hate that he even brought that up because I was trying to erase that from my mind before you brought
You know
it
what
up.
I mean? I tried to too.
I was actually at the wedding that they did and the last Raw of last year because it was in Connecticut. I'm like, oh, because I was at the last Raw of 2009. So I'm like, okay, it's a cool way to bookend. I was at the last Raw of that decade. I'll be at the last Raw of this decade because they were both in Connecticut here. I'm like, okay, cool thing to be in attendance for. I find out they're doing the goddamn wedding that day, and I'm like, please, swerve us, have something happen, but have Bobby Lashley like dump her or something, please. And it just went on forever. It was awful. The whole storyline was terrible. And I don't care what anyone says. There were some people that were saying, like, oh, it benefited X, Y, and Z, or like it gets Bobby on TV, or like it got Rusev over. First of all, Rusev was already over. I don't know who we're talking about here, but the guy was already over. And second of all, he just got released a month ago. So how much did it really benefit him,
Exactly.
And Bobby went right back to losing right after. That was the worst part. And it's not like, oh, he won the IC title or something. He was a loser after that. So it's like, I'm not a Lana fan at all. I just think she's completely unbearable. The pairing never made sense. He should have come back a year ago after he was off for like 3 or 4 months, beat the crap out of Brock Lesnar, and him be the one instead of, Kofi was champion. Either way, instead of Cain Velasquez, it should have been Bobby coming out, beating the crap out of Brock. Boom, you got your match right there. At this point, I think Bobby, they should build. I don't like the fact that the match is happening now because I think if they built up Bobby for a couple of months, this match would mean more. And have Bobby take the belt at SummerSlam. That's my opinion. But they're doing it now.
Deal, yeah.
But they're rushing it. It is what it is. I'm looking forward to it anyway. But they definitely have to rebuild Bobby and really erase the stench of that terrible Lana Rusev storyline. It was so bad.
That's definitely true. I do think SummerSlam would be ideal. But real quick, before we talk about Double or Nothing in AEW, if Bobby loses to Drew, in your opinion, who's the next best couple of feuds to keep him relevant?
Lashley?
That's why I think it can't be a one-off. Because if he loses in a one-off, who does he fight to keep himself relevant while continuing to build momentum? Who would you think are a few people in your opinion?
Are you talking about Bobby or Drew?
Bobby Lashley. I'm sorry.
Oh no. I think you said Bobby. I wasn't sure. But that is a good question. Raw has a lot. It's good that he's on Raw. He's on SmackDown. It doesn't really seem like they have a lot of depth, which is why they moved AJ. I'm not sure. I'm trying to think of babyface. It's like Ricochet is a glorified loser right now. That would be
nothing for him.
They're doing nothing for the guy. It stinks. That would be my answer. But like they're doing nothing with him. Cedric, same exact thing.
Yeah. Kevin Owens, that won't do enough for him, in my opinion. I love Kevin Owens, but it's not for him.
You're right.
You know what I mean?
Wouldn't do enough.
He has to stay. He might have to make this feud with Drew last 3 or 4 months and eventually take it. I know it might not happen, but I don't see a lot of contenders for Drew. That's why I'm just kind of be logical about it. And I do think MVP increases Bobby Lashley's opportunity to at least make something of this.
Absolutely.
Open up a new ball game because he doesn't have to focus on talking. He's not an awful talker, but he's not a great talker. MVP's an awesome talker. He has the swagger and bravado in the world, and that's why I have a little bit of hope. And I don't see no non-title feuds that can help Bobby Lashley after this. I really don't.
I totally agree. I didn't even really think about that, but yeah, Kevin Owens, I don't think would be enough. It would just be one of those random Raw feuds where they do the 50-50 booking, and it's like, who cares, Alistair, he already lost to, I think, once or twice, so it's like, maybe, but Alistair needs too.
Maybe Edge.
I was going to say that. When you were talking about that, I was thinking, maybe Edge and Orton have their match, and Bobby helps Orton win, or he attacks him afterward, and he goes after him because he failed to win the title. Like Seth. Seth failed to win the title, but he went right after Ray. So it's like he lost no momentum at all. Or Alistair or whatever. He loses absolutely zero momentum. So Edge would work. I think Edge would be cool, and then he beats Edge, and then he gets back in the title picture. Ideally, again, this is all pie in the sky because it's awesome booking, but I don't expect them to do it.
So. Of course, me either. I don't expect it. But what I do expect is I do expect for this pairing with MVP to at least raise his stock. I do expect that. He'll come out better than he was before, I believe, in my opinion. But whether or not he gets to that next level remains to be seen, and we'll see about that.
I think this whole thing is gonna kind of elevate MVP a little bit more than it elevates Bobby, because I think MVP will go on to somebody else and then work wonders if this doesn't work.
Who would MVP go on to that would be a better fit, hypothetically?
I mean, like you said, Cedric is kind of lost in the dust. If you
I don't
look
think he's a better fit to advocate for.
I don't know if it'll be a better fit, but I think that could also work, because Cedric's highly athletic. He can move around in that ring any way he wants to.
Apollo Crews.
I was thinking
Apollo's a little too low. I wouldn't put him with Apollo.
The guy could freaking work in the ring, man. he never cheats us with his performances. He's a specimen. I feel like there's a lot of untapped potential in him to find something for him on the card. But that all those guys are good candidates. Cedric Alexander, I think those guys are all in the same category almost. They could benefit from MVP. But let's talk about AEW's pay-per-view last night, Double or Nothing. It's seeming like this is like, would you say, Graham, maybe their WrestleMania somewhat?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, they definitely built it up last year. They built it up as their premier pay-per-view, their first ever show. The only other show that would come close would be All Out. But it definitely felt like...
That's what it felt to me.
Yeah, it seems like it would be that way for a lot of people. Their first show, Las Vegas, has this big show feel. All Out does too. But just being there last year for the show, I could feel like, okay, this is the WrestleMania. They went all out yesterday. So, I would say it's the WrestleMania for sure. And then I guess All Out would be like their SummerSlam.
Right. Yeah. I same here. But, they had some good matches on the card. I was entertained. I thought it was a good show. They had Maxwell Jacob Freeman versus Jungle Boy. I thought in-ring wise, that was probably the best bell to bell. I tweeted that this morning. Dean Ambrose or Jon Moxley versus Luke Harper, Brody Lee, a.k.a. Brody Lee. I thought, it wasn't the best main event match, honestly. I felt like those two, again, I said this the last time we were talking, Graham, Moxley still feels like Dean Ambrose to me.
You did say that, I remember that, yeah.
They worked really hard with their match, and, they took some big bumps, but, I didn't think they both felt like a big enough deal. But I was really impressed with MJF and Jungle Boy. I was really impressed with, the cinematic wrestling style match that they had in the football arena. That it paid dividends to have the Jacksonville Jaguar owner own a stadium, because they were really creative with wrestling in there. And I'm okay with Cody Rhodes being the first TNT champion and being the mid-card champion. What are your main takeaways from the pay-per-view?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. That overall, great show. I think it was the perfect, not that it worked, like, oh, let's do this show because of this, but it just worked out well timing-wise, because this week was terrible for wrestling fans. Between the passings of Shad Gaspard earlier on in the week, Hana Kimura I believe on Friday that happened, just a lot of just awful, heartbreaking stuff. And then you just have, if only for a couple hours, just this great distraction from everything going on right now, even just in the world in general. Just a very good show. And I think that maybe we would have said that anyway, even if it wasn't a great show, but it helped that it was a very enjoyable event, start to finish. Now, again, I'm not going to sit here and say perfect pay-per-view, 20 out of 10, blah, blah, blah. I thought, again, the Sean Spears, Dustin Rhodes stuff,
oh my
total
God.
waste of time. That was terrible. I think
Ty Dillinger, man.
Is that guy, again.
In this company either.
It's like, I like Sean Spears. Is he going to be a former, future world champion? No, but he should not be getting his ass spanked on live pay-per-view by a 51-year-old Dustin Rhodes, who I like, but that was just a complete waste. I thought Statlander and Penelope Ford, it was unfortunate because Baker got hurt, so I get it. Match was all right, but everything else that was good, great, or amazing, I totally agree. I think MJF Jungle Boy, probably, yeah. And the more I think about it, was the best wrestling match on the entire show. Totally agree. Easily MJF's biggest, or not biggest, but that Cody match would be that, but his best match to date.
Yes.
The main event thought was awesome. I thought the Stadium Stampede was perfect. I think it was 45 minutes, but it did not feel that way at all. Just a lot of fun. I thought what they did with Hardy and the Lake of Reincarnation was hilarious. That was great. Like you said, so Moxley and Lee, I thought it was a very good match. I think I see what you mean. Again, we discussed this a number of months ago about the whole Dean Ambrose Moxley thing. I agree to an extent. I've been enjoying his run as Moxley. The Lee match, I enjoyed the Jericho match more. The issue with this match, and they really went out and they killed it, I thought. The issue initially was that Lee should not have been in this spot. The guy just showed up. He's leading this loser stable. And I like Lee a lot. So it's not like, well, I don't know. Maybe he could be a future world champion. He does not scream future world champion to me at all, at least in this role. I thought it was a good match. Cody and Archer was a bit underwhelming. I thought it would be better. That was the match I was looking forward to the most. It was good. It was a very good match. I mean, the fact that Mike Tyson yawned and they caught it on camera was not good. But it was a good match. I don't hate that Cody won. It made sense. I was expecting it. I wanted Archer to win just because he's been a badass so far. It was all right. But Cody, he's lost the last two pay-per-view matches, so I'm not surprised. It makes sense to have him be the first champion. Title design, thought it looked like trash. I know it's not finished yet. I don't know. I'm of two minds on it. I know it's not finished due to the whole current circumstance. I get that. But they announced this thing months ago. So, either just don't show it. I don't know. I don't think it was whatever. But I thought the women killed it. Sheeta and Rose, I thought one of the best, if not the best, women's match in AEW to date. Sheeta winning was the right call. She's, I can't say, she's over, but there's no crowd, so it's kind of hard to, to run for you, whatever. It's kind of hard to figure that. But I thought they had a great match too. So, and the ladder match was cool. Brian Cage showing up was awesome. That was a cool moment. So, overall, just a really fun, almost 4-hour show, and it felt like a WrestleMania. I walked away from it very satisfied.
Yeah, I was entertained with it for real. It's weird because it's like you see empty arena performances in wrestling and you're like, God, this sucks, because let's be honest, it's the weirdest thing in the world. Like, the fans are the lifeblood, literally. It's how you tell if someone's over, if they suck. So it's weird as hell. But at the same time, for me personally, I can't help, I appreciate the effort of that much more, because AEW, they just throw their bodies around everywhere. They take some crazy bumps, and I really love the effort. They put their heart and their soul, and I do think for me, other than I personally wasn't thrilled by the women's match, but I think AEW has lacked consistency in that area. I wasn't thrilled about it, but I understand their circumstances with Britt Baker getting injured, but I really enjoyed MJF. I personally think he should be world champion over Moxley. I'm about to get more into that when I toss it to Sammy, but I really enjoyed MJF. He's really a great bad guy. I love this guy, man. I really do. I might have an end crush on him, man. I love MJF. Cody's always good. I think he's probably the best baby face they got. But I do agree, the match bell to bell wasn't much. I do think that they're kind of overstating how valuable Arn Anderson and Jake Roberts are. But I get it. They're using some veterans. But Sammy, out of the talent that's kind of coming up in AEW, who's standing out to you these days?
I would definitely have to go with the women more too, because if you look at what the women are being able to do, even though it's under the radar, a lot of the matches they always come through and they kill it, and I just wish that Jake Hager or Swagger, whatever it is, I wish he could just be more spotlighted, because I feel like he could do something. He could maybe give you that face of the company type of feel if you boost them right, put the right type of stems on them. You know what I mean? But that was a question I was going to ask to both of you too about AEW. Who there can give you kind of like that John Cena type feel that can just take the company and put it on his back and take it somewhere? Who can give you that feel to you guys?
Go ahead, Graham.
Oh, okay.
Answer.
I was hoping that you were going to answer first, David, because I need more time. I'll think about it quickly, but it's a good question. But so of the established people, the three that come to mind, I think Moxley's done a good job of that so far. There's no reason for this guy to be unhappy. I mean, he's been the world champion for months now. He's been practically undefeated for the last year. I mean, he's been just, I mean, not the WWE, like, I don't want to say they buried him. Like, obviously not. The guy was a former WWE. He won every title that they had. There's no way that he was buried, you know? They could have treated him better. Didn't really feel that he was the face of that company. But for AEW, it's just a much better fit. I see what you mean again, David, about, like, the Dean Ambrose thing. I kind of agree. But I think he's done a good job in that role so far. I think Kenny Omega might be able to be that guy. I know he's kind of the mindset from what I've heard that he wants to help the younger generation, but it's not like he's 45 years old. Like, this guy's best years are still now, you know? And he's been doing some great work. Ever since that Pac Iron Man match a couple months ago, he's been just killing it. Before that, it was like, Kenny Omega, not the same one from Japan, but he's been doing well. Cody, you said it before, David. The most over baby face, like, just in this company, and one of the most over baby faces in wrestling right now. I'm a big Cody fan. Again, didn't love the Archer match, didn't love the MJF match, but overall, though, I think he's done great work. He's a very good talker, very good in the ring, so he can be he's kind of like the face without actually being the face. You know, he's the secondary champion. But when I think AEW, I think Cody. I mean, obviously partly because they own it, but in terms of, like, younger people that could be that guy in the future, MJF is a star. They can absolutely build around him. He will be world champion. I think him and Moxley were probably going to be the top title match for this show before everything happened. It's probably going to be Moxley and MJF. I'm kind of glad they held off on it because I think MJF could be the guy to beat Moxley for that belt ultimately, whether it be at All Out or whatever. So MJF is great. What was the other one? Darby Allin. Big fan of Darby Allin.
I like him a lot.
He's very good.
Darby Allin's on the screen, I'm like, I catch myself. I'm like, oh, I gotta watch this. I stop what I'm doing. That's a sign someone's doing something right. Like, I have to stop. He's very interesting with the skateboard and all the stunts that he does. I love him.
I totally agree. He's just got that look. He's got that aura about him, and it's like, oh, guy, he's a must-see guy on the show. You know, he always has good matches. It seems like, you know, he has that creativity with the promos. So I'm a big Darby Allin guy. He can be one of those people if they kind of spotlight him correctly, as long as they give him a big win eventually. Like, he wasn't on this show. He didn't win the ladder match. He beat, I think, Sammy back at Revolution. But he needs, like, a big win because it seems like they build him up and then he loses to Cody or he loses to Moxley or he loses to Archer or whoever. He kind of, you know, he just needs that big win. But, you know, those two, I've seen some people say Jungle Boy before. You know, he's very young. He has a lot of untapped potential. You know, again, the MJF match was great. I don't know if he's the face of the company.
Yeah.
But, you know, he's good. I'm trying to think of, like, other people, but they have a lot of... What was that?
Luchasaurus?
Luchasaurus I was thinking of, too. I didn't want to say that because I was like, okay, I don't know if these guys are going to agree with me on this, but I like Luchasaurus. You know, they might have to, I don't know if we're going to have a world champion named Luchasaurus. They might have to, like, you know, change the name or, like, the gimmick or whatever. But he's great. I think he's awesome. He's really, really good. I'm shocked that WWE didn't pick him back up after they let him go, or he didn't go. I think he was in TNA for a cup of coffee, or, like, I think Ring of Honor, actually. But, yeah, he could be a really good top talent. They have a lot of people. They have stars at the top, but they need people beyond the elite. On this show, Cody won the title. Moxley retained the title. You know, they had the elite go over in the main event, which is awesome. I'm not denying that or not hating on it, but they also need to build up people that are beyond the elite, because this should not just be the elite show. This has got to be the Darby Allin, Sammy Guevara, MJF show too, I would say.
Yeah. I think that a big key to this success is building the unestablished guys and the guys that are, you know, appearing on national television for mostly the first time. It's about building the fresher talent. But I want to touch on this and ask you this. Now, I'm not going to be that guy to pick on them and say they're being a WWE graveyard, or, you know, they're getting the leftovers from WWE. But, you know, look at their world title feuds. Jericho is their first champion. Moxley's their current champion. Yeah. Harper and Lee and Moxley just battled. Hayes and Moxley battled. It does look like their mindset, whether they say it out loud or not, is I'm scared to put this championship on someone that hasn't appeared on WWE television because they got a bigger audience. Do you get that sense?
100%. Absolutely.
It's
I'm glad it wasn't just us.
It's kind of WCW like, if you think about it.
Yes.
This is exactly how this is exactly the path they were going down, and they ended up dooming them like 5-6 years later, you know.
That's the thing. I totally agree. I get it for the first year. Like, you want to have the biggest stars as champion right off the bat. I mean, a year ago, I hated the idea. I walked out of Double or Nothing last year not hating, but like very skeptical of Jericho winning and beating Omega and then going on to win the title just because it's like, he's a former WWE. He is like WWE for so long. Yeah. WWE, you know, and he's older. It's like, doesn't make much sense. And then he had the greatest run of his career at that point. So it's like, I get why he would be the first champion. It worked. Adam Page was not ready at that point. He's another guy too. I know he's a member of the Elite. He's a guy that could be the face of this company too. He's very entertaining, and I'm glad he's a guy. I love it.
It's going to work with the adult audience because they have an adult audience. Yeah,
exactly. I think he's a guy a year ago, very bland. Like, he was entertaining on Being the Elite, but like on the AEW shows, and they didn't have Dynamite at that point, but he was just kind of there. He's like, oh, he's Hangman Adam Page. Okay, cool. But like, it wasn't until the whole drinking thing started, ironically, that he got over really, really well, and I think the Omega tag team has really helped with that. They are terrific together. But yeah, no, back to the WCW thing though. Yeah, I know, I agree. I've been getting that feel too. It's not like, Jericho and Moxley, like, oh, that's not enough. And like you said, David, they had Lee in this match. Hager won for the belt recently. That's a lot of WWE guys. Cody's the first TNT champion. They have SCU, not former WWE guys, which is cool, as the first tag team champions. Nyla Rose. It's not like they brought in, like, I like Emma. I like Tennille Dashwood. Shocked they didn't sign her. It's not like they brought her in and put the belt on her. Like they put the belt on Riho, and then Nyla Rose, and then Sheeta. Which is cool. None of them have any WWE experience, which is nice. So it's not all, former WWE guys or girls, but it's definitely in that direction. So first year, okay, I get it. Moving forward, though, who's next? I wouldn't consider Cage a WWE guy. He was in developmental for a cup of coffee. So if they put the belt on him, I wouldn't say, WWE guy, although he was technically there. That's like saying Omega, former WWE guy, even though he was in developmental for like a year.
That doesn't count.
Yeah. But I agree, though. It's good. I love AEW, but moving forward, they got to focus on, the people that we mentioned earlier.
Yeah, because when I watch them, I'm watching them because I'm like, I want to learn about these guys. I want them featured. I know Cody's good at what he does. I know Jericho's a legend. Like, I don't want them in that spot. I need to see Maxwell Jacob Friedman in that spot. I need to see Luchasaurus. I like Wardlow, even the big guy. I do like they're starting to sign more bigger guys. They know they needed more heavyweights. I like that. The Brian Cage was he looked like a monster in that. Oh my God. Like, I like that Taz is his manager, but I do think they're not there yet, but they're bordering on, you're relying on, former WWE guys to carry the spotlight. But since we're on the topic of like main attraction and face of the company, I can't help but want to transition to the WWE, because Sammy and I were talking about this similarly with the WWE, but in a different way. Let's be honest, every era, has a variety of great stars, but every era has that one that has performed and earned a spot above the rest. Hulk Hogan in the 80s, The Rock, Stone Cold, John Cena across the 2000s, Bret and Shawn in the mid-90s. What do you think is the reason why it seems like this era doesn't have that one person above the rest, that real face of the company? Because I'm going to be honest, we all love and respect Roman Reigns, but when he comes out that curtain, do you feel, no matter what, his star power is above the rest? No, not really. He loves Seth Rollins. He doesn't give me that feel like I'm above the rest no matter where I am on the card. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of factors. It's a great question. It's a question I've been asking myself for a while now, definitely in recent years, because the further we go along and the more Taker Goldberg matches that we have, it's like, all right, where's the next Goldberg, Where's the next Taker? And I'm not saying the exact same type of gimmick, but those people that we're going to want to see brought back in 20 years. Will the AJ Styles being brought back out of retirement 15 years from now have that same feel as Taker? I'm not sure. Maybe not AJ, but like a Rollins or a Roman. All those guys you mentioned are stars, but they're not superstars. They call everyone superstars. They call Mojo Rawley a superstar. Is he a superstar? No, he's not a superstar. The guy's barely a star. I hate when people get released. I mean, as a writer, like, like when we in articles and stuff, we write like former WWE superstar. Are they actually stars? No, but that's what they call them.
No.
I get it. And they're not wrestlers in their opinion, but anyway, that's another thing. But I think a factor is definitely that today it's more about the company than it is one person. So like when Hogan was on top, again, I didn't live through this era, so I can't say with full certainty. It seemed like, okay, Hulk Hogan's going to be the show tonight, I'll be there. Like, oh, Hulk Hogan's in town, I'm going to go. Or like 20 years ago, Stone Cold is going to be on the show, I'm there. If they weren't on the show, may not have done as well. And of course, you had Stone Cold, you had Triple H. It wasn't just one person, it was multiple people. Nowadays, they don't really, and to an extent, it's smart. I get it. Because like they did that with The Rock, and The Rock got bigger than them, and then he left. John Cena got bigger than WWE, and he left. If he wasn't bigger than WWE, if he wasn't doing all the acting stuff, he would still be here. I'm sure he would still be here constantly. Triple H never really got, I mean, he's still a star, obviously. He's still a superstar, but he never got bigger than WWE, and obviously it's a whole family thing. He's going to help run the company. He never had to leave, so that's why he's still around as often as he is. John Cena is a superstar, but he got bigger than the company, so he took off. So are they worried that Roman's going to leave too? He's done a lot more stuff. He's been in movies, shows. He's not our John Cena. He is, but he's not. I totally agree. But yeah, just no one really has that feel because they don't want to focus on that one person, which again, I get it, because if that person gets hurt or leaves, then we're screwed. But just the current climate, they don't want people to be bigger than they want them to be, if that makes sense. You're only as good as they make you look. I heard someone say that, and I'm like, wow, that's totally right. Like, I totally agree with that. Like, you can be the biggest name in AEW, Independence, in Ring of Honor, whatever. If WWE doesn't see you in a certain light, it doesn't even matter. So I just, they want to make everyone the same. No one, I don't want to say no one, but because, Roman, Seth, AJ are special. They could be fighting for the US title or IC title. They're still like, they're awesome. Like, they're stars, but they're not superstars like a Hogan or a Rock or a Goldberg or a Taker, just because of the current climate. And I think WWE has a lot to do with that. I think it's kind of trickled down to other promotions because no one else anywhere really feels like that guy. Maybe Okada, but he's in Japan, so it's not like a worldwide appeal thing. I mean, everyone loves Okada, but that's a different story. But anyway, so I think that's one of the factors. I can't say with full certainty. It's definitely a byproduct of just having so many good wrestlers. They don't want to make certain people bigger than others, which they should, because like Kevin Owens 5 years ago shows up, lays out John Cena, night one. He's a made man, beats Cena in his debut match, loses the next two matches, and then he's just a mid-card guy. Like, he's had a lot of success. Again, I'm not saying he was buried. Asuka, same exact thing. She is literally at every accomplishment. She is a star for that women's division. Is she as big as she could be? I would say no, just because of how they've portrayed her over the last 2-3 years. So that's just my opinion on it. I mean, you guys may disagree or have different, standpoints, but that's just what I've noticed over the last couple of years.
Go ahead, Sam.
When I look at it though, there hasn't really been somebody that came across who had like the total package, because most guys nowadays, if they can work, they're missing the look or the mic skills. It's always like one gap in their whole, because when you look at guys like Cena, guys like Austin, guys like Rock, they can work, they have the look, and then they're gonna run their mouth like nobody else. There just hasn't been somebody in this era who's kind of had all three and just knocked it out of the park. I don't know if you guys feel that way, but I definitely think that's what I've been seeing.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I mean, it's like if you look at the roster, because again, I say everything I did before, but then you also have to ask, like you just did, Sammy, well, who could have been that guy? And honestly, that's a great question because I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of people that could be. Again, Roman, Seth, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Are they the Hogans, the Rocks? I don't know. Those people felt larger than life.
Yeah.
Part of it is just flat out luck. WWE is so lucky. They got Rock and Stone Cold at the same time. That will likely never happen again. That's not a WWE. That's not even something they did right. That's just something that just fell into their lap because Rock was as good as he was. And they just allowed him. They had creative freedom. They don't really have that same creative freedom nowadays. That's also an issue as well. But you're right. Like, if they have a Stone Cold on their hands, do they push that person to the level that they should be at? No. But, who else is that person that is the full package? That's a great question. Not sure. I would say the closest that we have to that is maybe an AJ or a Roman or a Seth. AJ is older. He came in when he was like 40 something, so that's one factor. Yeah. Roman and Seth could be those people. It's hard to say why they're not.
It's hard. I
think it's a talking thing though. You guys don't think
Seth Rollins is cutting some really great promos right now.
Yeah, has of late. But would you? Is he that type of guy who can talk you out of a ledge? Because guys like Hulk Hogan, Rock, they can do that. As soon as they touch that microphone, something special is gonna happen.
No, I agree. I mean? Yeah. No, yeah, definitely. It's like, okay, when I see a Rock promo, even 20 years later, I'm like, oh man, this is gonna be great. Yeah. Like this guy's awesome, And he shows up on SmackDown, it's like, oh man, here comes Rock. He's gonna just annihilate this guy. Rollins, great talker, but it's not like, oh man, here's a Rollins promo. This is gonna be great. Let me get my popcorn. Yeah, and like, maybe with Punk was that way to me. I'm just yes. But did he have the look, though, is the problem? Or a Bryan, one of the greatest wrestlers of our generation, not the greatest talker. I know he's cut a lot of good heartfelt promos over the years, like when he came back, or like when he turned heel, when he was doing the vegetarian or the environment thing, whatever. But he's not Hogan. If you take Hulk Hogan or The Rock or Stone Cold, put him next to Daniel Bryan, I would think he's working at the McDonald's downtown. Like that's not a knock on him. That's just what it is.
It's real. It's not his. That's the business. Yeah.
It's just what it is. He's not larger than life. Punk, was he larger than life? No, but like
his verbal skills made him larger than life, though.
Yeah. He was special.
He made it work.
Yeah. He could talk you out of a ledge.
Mm-hmm. And it's just, I don't know. It's tough because again, I look at a guy like Kevin Owens. Great talker. I loved his promos when he first started showing up. He's still a good talker now. Does he look like a guy I'm going to build my company around? No, he's not. And that, again, not his fault. It's not even like a weight thing. It's not what it is. Some people, it's not what it is going to be. It seems like it would be a fact, but I don't know. I don't know who that person would be. That's a great question. Roman, amazing look. Is he a person who's going to sit down again, talk me into a building? Not really. He's a good talker. I don't want to say he's bad. Roman gets a lot of unwarranted hate. It's ridiculous, but that's a whole other story. But I don't know. You're right. They're just, some of these people just don't have. They have X and Y, but they don't have Z. So
they don't have the Z. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny you bring up CM Punk because it just put me down the rabbit hole in my head thinking perhaps he was supposed to be that person, but way too early. Yeah, it got me thinking for a second because this dude was special, man. He was. His only flaw, if you want to call it a flaw, was the look, but it didn't matter at all because nobody cared. He had the moveset, the attitude, the microphone ability, the passion, the work rate, anything you're measuring by. He was awesome. He really is. I think when this pandemic hopefully dies down and hopefully on the road to WrestleMania next year, I think we'll get CM Punk back in some manner.
You think
I don't
so?
think too off topic, but I think so. I really think so.
I don't know. I don't know. I think he really seems content with just being the guy who comes and trashes the company.
I think the whole reason he's content with that right now is because he kind of came back on a short notice. So it's not like he had time to get in ring shape and take bumps and work out. So I think he kind of is riding this out. I'll do my Fox thing still, but he has a run in him, man. They get that itch. You know it.
I mean, I look at him, and again, if everything's to be believed, there's stuff that happened that we don't know about. But
right.
He got that offer from AEW. It'd be like, oh my God, it'd be perfect for AEW. He could be maybe not the face of the company, but he could be like what Jericho is to them right now. If you're offering me the same amount of money, and again, I'm not CM Punk, I don't know what his bank account looks like, but I'm assuming the deal that he got to go to Backstage was around the same that he got to probably go to AEW. So if I'm CM Punk and I have an offer between going to AEW, either being a commentator or being on the road or wrestling, something I haven't done in 6 years, and I don't know if I'm still going to be as good at it as I was 6 years ago, or get paid by Fox to crap on this company I used to work for, I mean, and go in once a month.
No brainer.
That's perfect.
Yeah,
You'd be a fool to not take that deal. So I'm not surprised he ended up doing that. And I like that. I don't watch Backstage on a weekly basis. I watch it whenever Punk's on. That, to me, it's a must-see show whenever he's on there. For me, anyway.
Yes. Yeah.
But in terms of him coming back, I don't know if he'll be back by WrestleMania. I don't know if he's ever going to wrestle again. I've always said he will be back at some point. Everyone comes back, whether even before Hall of Fame induction. I think it's inevitable. That being said, with Punk, what was I going to say? Oh, just right now, baby steps. I mean, 5 years ago, when he'd be asked about a WWE question, they'd be like, I don't want to talk about WWE. I hate professional wrestling. I'm sick of it. He's watching it now. He was watching Dark Side of the Ring. He's tweeting all about it. Like, you would never expect that from Punk 3 years ago. He would have crapped all over, and it made me feel bad because I love Punk and I love wrestling, and to not see those two things together made me really upset, Not to the point where I'm on the verge of tears, but like, you want to see Punk like wrestling because you like wrestling and you like Punk. But baby steps. He's watching it again. He's on the show. He knows some of the people. He's really close with Renee Young. Booker T's on there. Stuff like that. So, again, maybe not anytime soon. I think he's still far away off from that. But I think at some point we might be seeing CM Punk. Maybe not wrestling again. Maybe not wrestling, but definitely back on WWE TV. They'd be fools to not explore. For WWE to say, reportedly, we have no interest in bringing him back is ridiculously dumb because that's good business.
That's a lie. That's a lie.
I think it's a lie. It's a lie.
That's just being petty for the sake of being petty.
I think they're only saying that because they don't want to show their hand yet.
Exactly.
If it says that he's interested, of course they're going to want CM Punk.
Exactly.
But I totally see one more run in him. You
think so? I hope so.
Too long, man. I really feel that way. But that's definitely something interesting to see. Let's go back to Drew McIntyre real quick. Do you think he has a chance? Because he's hitting it out the park so far. And even while we had fans with Brock Lesnar, he was hitting it out the park. Do you think he has the closest chance to check all those boxes? Because I think if he keeps this up, he can be possibly that guy to bring back that larger than life face of the company, that one guy above the rest. Because he has the look, the intensity, and the ring skills and everything. He really has everything more than, I hate to say it, more than Seth and Roman, if you really think about it, because they finally let him free on the microphone. Drew's been cutting a lot better promos and he's being himself more. But what I like is the fact that he's this big guy and he could probably get by doing a generic big guy move set, scream, yell, clothesline, big move. Yeah. But he doesn't work like that. He works like a guy that wants to go above and beyond and be agile and be an athlete and, do these great sequences. Do you think he could possibly be that guy?
Man, I think so. I think if the company allows him to be, I think he can be. Because you're right. He's got a great look. He can talk. He's got personality, too. Like, every time I see... If you show someone who's not a wrestling fan, Drew McIntyre now, like, he comes out, it's like, oh, I want that guy to win. I want to rally behind that guy. He has personality. Like, again, I hate to say it, Roman seems like a great guy. Doesn't seem like he has much of a personality, or... I don't want to say he doesn't have a gimmick. Like, not everyone has to have a gimmick. I don't want Duke the Dumpster Drozy to come back just because he's a gimmick, Yeah. But, like, there's this thing, like... You shouldn't just be a great wrestler. Roderick Strong, great wrestler. Before he was with Undisputed Era, showed zero personality. Like that's part of the wrestling business. You need to be able to talk, have just a likable personality, wrestle. A lot of people don't have that, but he does. He does have that. I think it's more a matter of him. He's holding up his own, absolutely. It's more a matter of whether WWE gets bored. And when I say WWE, I mean Vince McMahon. The guy changes his mind more than he changes his pants every morning. You know what I mean? Like, with him, he just sours on people. And it sucks because he might be thinking, it's not a matter of, he's not getting the reactions that we want because there's no one there. So it's not, he can't really go off of that. What he can go off of is the ratings. That ain't his fault. That is absolutely 120% Vince's fault. I mean, again, you could say, with ratings and TV, people not watching TV anymore, obviously that's a factor. But WWE, the damage has been done because the stars just aren't there, and they haven't been for a long time. It ain't a Drew thing. They were saying the same thing about CM Punk 8-9 years ago. I remember reading, the ratings are in the toilet. It's all his fault as champion. And the ratings at that point were like high 3s, low 4s, and now they're like low 1s or high 1s, whatever. Like, they would kill for those ratings today. And it's because they've just... I don't know, eroded their audience and kind of not really giving them enough of a reason to tune in. And McIntyre is great, but is it too little too late for the company? For him, it's perfect. Like, I don't want to say, they underutilized him a decade ago. Was he ready for this type of push when he was the chosen one? No, he was not. I mean, he was boring, and he had a good theme song, but other than that, it was, he was good. He wasn't great. He is great now, having great matches. The fact that he and Seth went in there Money in the Bank and killed it and had the match of the night in front of no crowd says a lot about both of them, not just Drew. But yeah, I think he can be that guy. They just got to stay the course.
I agree. If he keeps performing and they match that with continuing to consistently book him like they have, he can be. I think he'll have the greatest chance that anybody has had in a long time. But, once again, we appreciate your time. We don't want to hold you up too much, but I have to get your thoughts on this before we get into wrapping up. The Undertaker, The Last Ride. Have you been tuning in, and what are your takeaways from that?
That was part of the reason why I actually had to push this from 2 to 2:15 was to watch that, because I thought I might be talking about that. I had to finish that up real quick. I was like, oh man, I had to squeeze that in before we started doing this, and I'm glad I did. It was really, really good. It was awesome. The whole documentary has been phenomenal. It is. I don't think it's an exaggeration to say it's one of the greatest documentaries they've ever done, and we're only 3 episodes in, just because, if you told me Undertaker Out of Character, one of the greatest documentaries without even having seen it, because we don't see that. We don't see that type of thing nowadays, but we are with this. I love the layout. They're spending like one episode in each time period. Like the first one was all about the last 10 years. And they're not going back like, he was born here. And like, I don't care about that stuff. I mean, it's cool, but like he talked about it on the Stone Cold podcast. I don't really need to know his upbringing. Like, okay, cool. But like, I want to know the last ride. I want to know about this last stretch of his career, what this is all about. I don't need to know about him facing Stone Cold at SummerSlam in '98. Like, there's a time and a place for that. This ain't it. This is all about why isn't he done yet? That's what we debate about all the time. Why hasn't this guy hung it up? And he's talking about it. What I love about it so much is that not just him, but Triple H and other people, they are saying what we're thinking and what we're saying on these shows. Like, it's a catch-22. He just said it on today's show. I don't want to give away too much for those who haven't seen it yet, but Triple H said today it was a catch-22, where with Taker, he's like, if he has a bad match, he has to redeem himself. But if he has a great match, he wants to do it more. Like, he wants to keep going, so he's never going to stop. And he's waiting for that one last good moment. I think he got that at WrestleMania. I'm hoping that's where this thing is leading. It's like him saying, I'm done. I'm not coming back. Maybe they have a retirement celebration for him at Survivor Series on the exact 30-year anniversary of when he debuted in the company would be cool. But it's just so cool. Like I was laughing today. Again, before literally minutes, I finished watching that, and then you called me. But they were watching the Crown Jewel match back, and they were just crapping all over it, as they should be, because it was terrible, It
was terrible, yeah.
I love it, too, and it's not like the company saying, oh, yeah, it was a great match. Like, no, they know it was shit. They know it was bad. I'm glad they're not hiding away from that. Yeah. And it's not like they're saying, oh, Taker has a lot left in the tank. This guy's on camera saying, I feel terrible. I feel terrible physically. They're not sugarcoating it. They do this a lot with, like, the WWE stuff, like with the Monday Night War documentary. WWE is good. WCW is bad. They're the enemy. It's like, you leave a lot of things out. It's, I forgot what the word is, but it's like retroactively changing history. And they're not doing that with this. Everything is as is, and maybe a few things here and there. We see Taker in a different light. We see Michelle McCool. 10 years ago, she was just the Divas champion, but now she's Undertaker's wife, and now we're hearing from her and Triple H, and it's just, it's so good. I cannot recommend it enough. But Sammy, what are your thoughts? I'm going to get your thoughts on it, though.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely like how they're revealing all the things that we've been like curious about. We've been like wondering about, but now they're definitely pushing it forward. And what this dude has been able to put himself through and drag himself back year after year after year. I'm like, dude, why and how? like literally, you're getting a surgery every year. Like, come on, dude. Like, how are you still wanting to do this? It's crazy that he still wants to do this, even though he knows he has 2 bad knees, 2 bad legs, a terrible back. You know what I mean? And and it's just watching him go back and forth and do the bumps on the back, having Michelle McCool And then one of the biggest disappointments, I don't know about if you guys feel this way too, was the John Cena match. You know, I definitely feel like that should have been like at least a 20-minute or 15-minute, you know, classic, you know. And we didn't even get the chance to get that.
Yeah. No, I was going to say, I feel that same way. I didn't feel that way then. I felt at the time, I didn't feel it should have happened. I was at 33 and I saw what he did at the end of the show. I, like most people, was thinking, okay, that's it. And then he comes back. It's like, dude, stop. Like that. I know the match sucked, but no one's going to remember the match. I mean, we do, but you know, we remember the moment more. And then he came back and I'm like, this match does not need to happen. I want to Taker and Cena like 5 years earlier.
Yeah.
Even at 33, instead of Roman, I don't care about Taker putting over a younger guy at the way out at this point. Like, it's nice, but like, if Cena beat him, who cares? Like, it doesn't even matter. It's all about Taker. Just at this point, he could lose to Jinder, and I wouldn't care. Like, just go away, you know. And I love the guy, but like, the career has got to stop. You know? But so with the Cena match, I didn't want to see it, and I'm like, okay, that was exactly what it needed to be. It was 2 minutes. You know, it shouldn't have been any longer. I watched this doc, and he's like, I'm in the best shape I've ever been in. He was in a great, you know, spot mentally, great spot physically, great spot emotionally. He was ready to go in there and rip it up with Cena and have this great last match. And now I'm thinking, yes, that is a missed opportunity. That should have been it, because he has never been in that same headspace since then or even before then. He was ready to go in there and kill it with Cena. And he hasn't had that same, I don't want to say motivation. It's not like he's lazy, but like he wasn't he fired on all cylinders at the gym and everything going into that show, and then a 2-minute match. Like, I agree. I think that should have been it. They should have gone in there. I didn't say that at the time, but I'm saying it now. They should have gone in there and had this 20-minute classic as opposed to devoting 20 minutes to Braun finding a 10-year-old as a tag team partner. Get that shit off my screen. You know, I don't know.
Out of here, man. It's a shame. You guys are hurting my feelings because these are my two favorites of all time. And since they became marquee superstars, they've never got the time classic. I don't get why. Like, you would think that's no brainer to do. Like, put fucking Cena and Undertaker against each other. That's selling out anywhere. That pisses me off. Honestly, Cena could have ended the streak. Why didn't we ever get that against the streak?
That's the question. I was going to say, I've been saying this for a decade. They should have had 20-0.
That would have been the perfect heel turn.
It would have been amazing, dude. Instead of having Roman, they didn't even run with it with Roman. He got booed, and then that was it. It was a complete waste. It's not like it's kind of go full circle with what you said earlier, David, and the whole star thing. Right. Roman beating Taker should have made him a star. It didn't, because of the aftermath. It ain't Roman's fault at all, except for, you know, certain things that he lacks that we were talking about. From a booking standpoint, he's the guy, but he wasn't after that. He lost to Braun like a month later. Like, why would you do that, you know? Yeah. And it was cool for Braun, but just bad timing. But yeah, Cena and Taker, in my head, always should have been Taker hits 20-0, it's Cena losing or beating him, whatever, and that's it, WrestleMania 28. The issue, timing-wise, was that that's when he faced The Rock. I'm like, man, it just didn't work out. So he goes 20-0. That should have been it. In my opinion, he beats Triple H. That last shot that they get into on this latest episode was the perfect way for him to go out, and it wasn't the end of an era. They went back to the match like 5 years later at the Super Showdown a couple of years ago. But then at 29, again, should have been the time and place to do that match. Cena faced, Rock again? You don't need to do that again. Who really was anxiously anticipating Rock and Cena too? Maybe there were some people out there. I don't know. It was a crap match. Didn't need to happen. Taker faced Punk, great match. What people forget, the build was completely random. Like, they literally built it up a month before the show. All you had to do was have Cena say, you know, he lost the Rock at 28. He's not himself, which they were kind of getting at, but he went into the Rock match doing that story. You could have just gone, he's not himself. What's going on here? He's the last-ditch effort, calling up The Undertaker. Boom, WrestleMania 29. You have the two big stars against each other. Maybe Cena wins and Taker goes away. I would never end the streak, but, you know, if you do, I mean, Brock made sense, but, you know, Cena doing it, going heel if they wanted to do it, which they were, you know, exploring interest in doing at one point during that Rock feud. It was like a year before WrestleMania 29. At fantasy booking, that's what I would have done. They didn't. And they never did the match, and they absolutely should have. And it's a complete. I mean, they did at WrestleMania 34, but was it really a match when it felt like a WWE 2K20 simulation? No, it wasn't. So
that whole thing pissed me off, man.
I get it. Yeah.
We definitely deserve more than 2 minutes, more than just him squashing Cena. You know, Cena's arguably one of the greatest of all time, and so was Undertaker. How do you not give those guys at least 10 to 15? You know what I mean?
It's
For
like
Cena. So go ahead, David.
no, you're good. I get the bullshit excuse that we sell entertainment, we don't sell time. I also get the bullshit excuse that that match was designed to give Undertaker his aura back, but you could have gave them 10 minutes at first. They didn't even do that.
Yeah,
How on a 5-hour plus show do you not carve out 10 minutes for the Undertaker versus John Cena? That show had like 20 matches on it. Get rid of Alexa Bliss and Nia Jax and give me more Cena versus Taker. It makes no sense. It's just unbelievable. And Cena's another thing, not to go off on a whole tangent here, but Cena, this is supposed to be like the Hulk Hogan of our generation. Why has he been completely wasted at the last like 5 WrestleManias? The Firefly Funhouse stuff was great, but before this year, the Taker match was a complete waste. The mixed tag team match was a nice fun feud, but
proposal. Come on,
Nikki Bella bullshit, wasted, never happened.
And it
what
didn't
did he do the
even
next
work
year?
out.
Well, yeah, it didn't even work out. It would have been a cool moment.
Out.
Didn't even work out. It's just a complete waste. And then what was 34? Was he even at 34? Or was this? It was the Taker thing. And then 35 wasn't. He did the basic thug. And it's like, come on, dude. Come on. You know, like
Firefly Funhouse. Oh my god.
Bullshit. Again, I like the Firefly Funhouse stuff, but like, do you need to have him face Bray again? No. Like, have him face, I don't know, Samoa Joe or something like that. I don't know. Give me something like that feels like a marquee main event. Not this shit with like. Again, it's crazy because like 10 years ago we're saying, oh, this guy's burying everyone, blah blah blah. But like, they gotta treat him. He does not feel. I mean, if he comes back, he feels special. But like, you look at the last 5 Manias he's been in, it's been a complete joke. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy. Like he beat Rusev, and Rusev's not even here anymore. It's like it's the complete waste. It's crazy.
I can't help but feel like they're half-assing what they do with everything they do with him now.
Mm-hmm.
But I wish he would come around more. But you know how that is. Last thing I really want to get on your mind is, I mean, I know you believe Undertaker, the time is now, but would you feel the best way to give him that proper exit? Because I feel like this might be the best option now, is Boneyard match versus Sting. I know it's a long shot, but that's, if you could have come up with like the perfect ending to make him look good and just fade away, it might be that.
So here are my 2 cents on that. I think it was actually the Daily DDT Twitter account that tweeted. It was like the day after Mania, and they were like, if they do another cinematic match, because that one was so well received, what would you want it to be? And I quote tweeted and said, Taker and Sting. That's what I would want. They should absolutely not do that match as a normal match ever at this point. Another one, though, not to go off on a 20-minute rant. How the hell do you not do Taker and Sting at WrestleMania 31?
Yeah,
Sting was there.
It's the same thing.
Dude, it makes no sense 5 years later. It's crazy.
Was Triple H his opponent to begin with?
Triple H did not need that match.
I was entertained. I liked it, but why was that their first feud? Like, I don't get it, bro. Like,
and I would love.
I wouldn't have Sting do anything until he interacts with Taker. If it was me,
yeah, I would have did Triple H after that.
Yeah.
It would have made better sense to do it after. You know what I mean?
It made no sense to me then. It makes no sense to me now. Like, they asked Taker all these questions in interviews now. How has nobody asked them about Sting? Like, why haven't you worked with Sting? Do you want to work? Did you not want to work with him? Like, if you didn't want to work with him, I get
that's what it is. Maybe.
If he doesn't give a shit and Sting's so desperate, like, oh, I want to work with you so bad. Taker's like, no, dude, no thanks. Like, then I get it. But he has never said that. He hasn't even been asked about it, as far as I know. But as far as a Boneyard match, I would like that, but it looks like, again, there's a few different options. There's that. The only issue is that it doesn't look like Sting's under contract anymore. There's that whole thing. There's the AEW. I don't know if he'll go to AEW, but it doesn't look like he's under contract, which is odd because he's been under contract for all this time, for 5 years now, and you never see the guy on TV.
Never use him. They never.
Why is he even on the show? Like,
I guess it's for like meet and greets and marketing and stuff like that. Probably. Yeah.
Like
legend still.
It probably is. I met him actually at Access last year. Super nice guy, really nice guy. Like that's the type of stuff he's probably doing with them. But how do you not bring him on the show at least once or twice? Like a Kurt Angle's, on the show a bunch. How is he not on the show more often than he is? He was like a part of that Ric Flair birthday thing for 10 seconds a year ago. That was the last time he was ever on the show.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make any sense. But he's a guy they should have done more with from that standpoint. The Taker thing works. You could do that. It looks like AJ's not done with Taker. He's been mentioning him left and right since Mania. So I would have, I don't know, I guess you could put the IC title on AJ. I would probably have him win the Universal title. He faces Taker one more time at Survivor Series, assuming that Boneyard match wasn't the last match. Mm-hmm. I would love for it to be, but it doesn't look like it is if AJ keeps bringing him up. But you have AJ and Taker one more time, hopefully with a crowd, but who knows what's going to be going on by November. At Survivor Series, AJ wins on the 30-year anniversary. Taker goes out. He's done. And if anyone can get I don't know about great, but a very good match out of Taker at this point, it would be AJ Styles. So I love the Sting thing. I just don't think it'll happen. I would, if it happened, if it fell in our lap, I'd be like, yeah, for sure. But I think from a storytelling standpoint, then I think it's probably got to be AJ, assuming that WrestleMania 36 wasn't his last match.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Absolutely. So we're going to conclude now. Again, we really appreciate your time. We're having so much fun. I could go for another hour.
Thanks a lot.
Same, dude.
This is just stuff that keeps popping in my mind. But, man, hopefully we could do this again and talk about some other hot topics in the future. Do you got anything you want to plug to the audience and let them know where to find you and find your content?
Yeah, for sure. But first, I got to say, it's a great time when you talk for an hour and a half. I'm looking at the clock now; it's almost 3:45.
Yeah,
I
just 5 minutes. At it, I'm like, okay, I want to restrain myself. I'm like, where did the time go?
It's cool, dude. It's cool. No, I love doing this stuff. Every time you and I chat, it's always like an hour plus conversation. There's like 20 things I want to talk about with you, and we only get to like 5 of them because we go on for so long about each topic because there's so much to discuss. And it's just the beauty of being a wrestling fan. There's just so much to talk about. It's not like sports are great, but like there's seasons, so there's only so much you can discuss, and wrestling's never ending. I don't know if it's essentially, but it's definitely there's definitely a lot to discuss there, whether it be past, present, or future. But I know this has been awesome. Great talking with you guys. As far as my stuff, you can find me on you just type in Graham GSM Matthews. I'm all over the place on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatever. In terms of websites, are right for you mentioned it earlier, but you can find me on Bleacher Report. Sports Betting Dime, Daily DDT. Had a couple interviews go up lately over there with Matt Riddle. You can check that out. Talked to Rhea Ripley last week. That interview went up on Daily DDT. They're a great website. I know obviously you write for them too, David. So definitely check out their work. What Culture as well. But my show, Wrestle Rant Radio, you mentioned at the beginning. We had, again, all the audio of those interviews are up there for the most part. We had Otis on that show. I aired the audio of that a couple weeks ago. So it's cool stuff. So I appreciate it, man. People could check that out. nextwrestling.net. You just go rewind the video and go check out what David said, because he knows more about what I do than I do. I completely forget. So anyway, I appreciate it, guys. This has been awesome. Sammy, great meeting you, and David. It's always an awesome time chatting with you.
Thanks for the time.
Yeah, of course. Awesome. My pleasure.
Appreciate the time, and hopefully we could do this again. And for everybody watching, thank you for watching, and do not forget to subscribe to us on YouTube at Wrestling with Things.